I've been on paternity leave lately and it's given me a lot of time to think. One of those things has been about what actually makes a developer senior. Because I used to think it was about the number of commits you pushed or even grinding all night. But it turns out you actually need to know when to switch off because focus without balance just leads to quick burnout. It's also not about the frameworks because I realized over time that I needed to be a better dad who develops and a developer who's a human being because for me, that's true life balance. In the past, I went to a boot camp and also attended an apprenticeship, which led to my first role as a software developer. And I realized those give you two distinct mindsets. The boot camp mindset chases syntax, and the apprentice mindset chases solutions. Solutions start not with code, but with asking better questions about the problem. That shift is the foundation for what I want to talk about today, the 8 skills that make you indispensable as a software developer. So let's get into it. The first skill you have to master as a developer isn't coding what's asked, it's understanding what's meant. Sometimes the requests we get from the team look like this room, cluttered, overlapping, and a mess of priorities. Anyone can follow a checklist, but the developer who can take that chaos, organize it into clear, unambiguous tickets, and help everyone see the big picture, that's the one people trust. It's not just about writing code, it's about documenting intent before you touch the keyboard. Note what the business really wants, what success looks like, and where things might break. Clean up the problem before you build the solution. But clarity isn't everything. The next one's about restraint, knowing when not to build. Early in my career, I thought progress meant adding more features, more lines, more proof that I was doing something. But here's the truth. The rookie adds features, the pro removes friction. Every line of code is another thing to maintain, test, and explain to someone else later. Every dependency adds risk. Every quick fix has the potential to become a long-term problem. The most valuable developers aren't the ones who code the most. They're the ones who know when to stop. When you can look at a task and say, this doesn't actually serve the user, or we can delete this and nothing breaks, that's not laziness, it's wisdom. Because every line you delete is one you'll never have to debug again. You've just saved hours, maybe even days for everyone after you. Code isn't an asset, it's a liability you manage with discipline. So when in doubt, default to deletion until something truly earns its place. Most requirements aren't wrong, they're just unfinished thoughts. They'll say, build a user dashboard, but what they really mean is, build something that keeps our customers around for 3 more months. A junior developer delivers what's written. A senior, they listen for what's missing. Because behind every ticket, there's a business problem, a person under pressure, or a metric someone's trying to move. Once you start reading between those lines, you stop building features and start building outcomes. That's when your code has true intent. But even when you see the bigger picture, it means nothing if you can't communicate it. One of the biggest lessons I learned on the job is that the smartest people in the room aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who can make anyone understand them. If you can explain a massive backend refactor to a product manager in a minute of plain English, you've already leveled up. Early on, I see developers get so deep in technical jargon that they lose half the room. From that, I learned when to switch gears, talk code with engineers, impact with PMs, and risk with executives. So instead of saying the database connection pool is timing out, I learned to say we're losing customer signups because the server is overwhelmed, and fixing it, it'll take at least 8 hours. That one shift changed everything. It stopped being about proving I was technical and started being about showing I could make things happen. That's when you get invited into real conversations. All right, we've talked about how to work smarter. Now let's talk about how to work with people. We talk about debugging code all the time, but half the job is actually debugging communication. Everyone on your team has patterns, the way they react when they're stressed, how they word feedback, and when they actually respond. Once you start noticing those patterns, things just click. You don't have to be a therapist, just be observant. John, he reviews pull requests instantly. Sarah, she'll need at least 24 hours to think before replying. Work with their rhythm, not against it. When you can read those people patterns, collaboration starts to feel like it's on autopilot. You stop reacting and start leading. And speaking of people, not every bit of feedback means what you think it does. Here's a skill most developers never talk about: reading the room in pull requests. Not every comment means you messed up. Sometimes it just means I care about this feature. And yeah, sometimes it's just ego. The tricky part: learning to hear tone through text. That's something no bootcamp ever teaches you. Once you figure out which comments are real blockers and which ones are just opinions, you save yourself a ton of stress and a few gray hairs along the way. Basically, learn to spot when it's feedback and when it's just vibes. And this one hits home, especially if you're balancing code with real life. Protecting your focus doesn't mean ignoring your life. It means learning when to give your attention fully and when to take it back. You're going to get interrupted. A P2 bug, a meeting, or sometimes my daughter just needs another bottle. You've got to work in a way that lets you snap back to the screen without losing an hour to figuring out where you left off. For me, that became non negotiable because when you've got a family, wasted focus costs more than time, it costs presence. So before I walk away from the keyboard, I follow my own 3-2-1 rule: three next steps, two questions for tomorrow, one main goal for when I come back. That little ritual cuts my reentry time in half. It's not flashy, but that consistency, that reliability, it's what quietly builds senior level trust. And finally, the toughest debugging you'll ever do has nothing to do with your editor. Some bugs live in your code, but a lot more live in your mindset. I used to think grinding longer hours made me sharper. It didn't. It just made me sloppy. Ever notice how the bug you've stared at for hours gets fixed in 5 minutes after you walk away? That's not luck. It's your brain finally catching up once you let it breathe. Learning to pause, to step outside, to just be, that's not weakness, it's strategy. The most valuable tool you own isn't your IDE, it's a rested mind. So next time you're stuck, try this. Write the problem on a sticky note, put it face down, and walk away. Let your subconscious debug it for free. Because sometimes the fix you're searching for shows up the moment you stop searching. I used to think mastering frameworks was the goal, but once I learned to master myself, my clarity, my focus, and my emotions, everything changed. No course or tutorial can teach you that. These are the invisible skills, the ones that make a developer into a craftsman. That's when I stopped just surviving and started building. Now, if this hit home, subscribe, because around here we don't just code, we build. Our skills, our families, our futures. You're not just a developer, you're a builder, and this is where we build together.